Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 344.
Oh, yes.
Welcome to another episode, another week. This is 344. I hope you are keeping well and safe wherever you are in the world. It's great to have you here, new time listeners. If this is the first time listening to the Big Blue Box, then welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. If you're a long time listener, one of the grizzled ancients, then welcome back too. It is lovely to have you all here. What did we do last week? Did you guys check out last week? What was that? Planet of Giants. Yeah, that was a strange one. We got some
big ants.
Got a couple of tweets in the follow-up to that one saying, yeah, it's a funny old story, that one. Like you mentioned in our review, it's got all the ingredients there, but just a little bit weird, a little bit like, why is it not a classic? Yeah. But it's not, at the end of the day. Some people might consider it a classic. I think one of our reviewers did say it was amazing and a 9 or something out of 10, but
it's enjoyable. It's no Web Planet, is it, where it's really hard to get through. Like it's perfectly watchable to anyone that hasn't seen it. But yeah, not a belter of a classic.
Not a belter, no. But still a good one. Right, we haven't got any news to go through this week, and we're going to get on to our usual classic, infamous Big Blue Box waffle in a second. But how have you been, dude? I know you went to a certain thing at the weekend. How was that?
Yeah, another Doctor Who screening at the BFI. Must be the first one this year, isn't it? Kind of lost track of time, but it was another cracking event. Actually, really enjoyable. So this time, obviously, to promote the new season 22 box set, which still hasn't got a date. Even Justin Johnson, the guy who sort of compares these events, called out to the audience, because he always have a lot of the BBC lot there and the people that work on it. Even he said, have we got a date for this yet? And there was just a tumbleweed silence. He's like, all right. But it's strange, because normally with the BFI events, they line them up to be normally about 2 weeks before the release, don't they? It's normally they have the event and then about 2 weeks later the box set comes out. But I don't know, maybe there's some delay on it or something. But it was great. So they screened Revelation of the Daleks, the Sixth Doctor story, which, like a lot of people in the audience, it's a really dark, grim story, that. But like a lot of people in the audience, I'd forgotten there is a lot of humour in it, all being dark humour. And as we've said many times, being in an audience environment watching it, there was a lot of laughter in places. And I picked up a lot of things from that story that I think I don't normally notice, particularly the humour in it. But it's quite, you can see why the BBC knuckled down on the violence. There's a few scenes in it, like when she stabs him with the needle, and there's a bit where Davros's fingers get shot off, and there's a couple of really quite nasty scenes in it. That, the glass Dalek is, to this day, freaks the hell out of me. I think it's scary, and in a good way. I think it looks amazing. So it was great to see that on the big screen. And Colin Baker, Nicola Bryant, and I've forgotten the other chap's name. I want to say Timothy Spall, but I've probably got that completely wrong. Let me have a quick look on Google.
Was it Revelation?
Colin Spall, sorry, Timothy Spall.
Yeah.
Colin Spall came up on stage and did a chat. And Colin, I think this is the thing with age, and I think me and you can slightly appreciate this as well. You get more emotional as you get older, don't you? Like the littlest thing can sort of set you off, and you start getting a bit, not teary, but a bit emotional. And they showed a couple of exclusive little scenes from the extras, so we're getting some really great new extras on the season 22 box set. And they showed us a couple of little clips from what we can expect, which they always do. So there was like a location thing that they showed us, which looks brilliant. And Colin got up on stage with Nicola, and he was really, really emotional. He said, "Gosh, that's really like got to me watching that." He said, "Because it's just taken me right back to when we filmed that scene, and you know, and the TARDIS being on the hill just takes me straight back in time to when we filmed that back in the 1980s." And they just had a massive hug on stage, and then Justin Johnson obviously interviewed them, the three of them, and it was just brilliant because Colin, as you know, he will doesn't beat around the bush. He gets straight to the point, and this is the era when Doctor Who was put on hiatus, and they did show a clip of Michael Grade. There's a new interview of Michael Grade and Matthew Sweet on the Blu-ray set, and Colin made a joke about that. He's like, I didn't want to see him on the big screen and all this. So it was a fantastic interview on stage, and yet again, just another brilliant event. I can't wait for that box set. I've said many times, the Colin era is not my favourite because as a kid I found it too dark and grim, but the more I rewatch it and the more I sort of look into it, and Colin in particular actually really goes up in my estimation every time I watch one of his stories. Yeah, so looking forward to that box set. It was a really good day. Obviously our roving reporter Maria was there, as was Harry, who does articles for us, and Mark as well. So we had a bit of a big blue box representation there, and Maria will be doing a write-up on the whole day, so I'm looking forward to hearing her thoughts on it.
Yeah, she will. Yeah, sounds like a good day as well, that one.
It was really good, mate. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yes. That sounds cool indeed. I haven't done anything Doctor Who-y so far this week, other than watch a little bit of Torchwood for our review, of course. But I've not done anything else other than that. But you and I are going to a BFI event, but it's not Doctor Who related, which
that's right. Yeah.
It'll be amazing. Yeah. So off topic, nothing to do with Doctor Who. But you and I are off to the BFI. This is really weird. I haven't been able to get to the last 2, maybe 3 BFI events, I think, for Doctor Who. And then this one comes up and you and I are like, yep, we're going, that's it, job done.
We actually stopped really recording last week's podcast specifically so we could both jump online and get tickets for it, didn't we? So that was really nice. So we both knew we'd got tickets and we're both going. Go on, tell them what it is. So it's not Doctor Who. What else could it be?
What could it be? It's only something that we've mentioned a billion times as well. It's not Blake.
No, it's not Blake.
No, it's old Wurzel. Wurzel, we're Depp. We're going to a Wurzel Gummidge event at the BFI, which is really cool. They're going to show 3 episodes on the bounce, which is really cool. I think they're releasing a new box set with like recently restored, remastered stuff at last, which is unbelievable. So yeah, so unrelated, come down to the BFI. We'll be there on Sunday, the something of April, the 11th, I think, something like that.
I can't remember the date off the top of my head. Which Wurzel wear are you wearing that day?
I might wear my smart head on that one, with a little monocle.
Oh, that's the one I was going to pick.
Oh, you're going to wear that? Okay.
No, I was just about to say to you, which is the one with the monocle? That's the one I was going. Well, if you're having that one, which one? What other one can I have? A sulking head? What other heads did he have? He had loads, didn't he?
He did.
Or I might go as old turnip head. That scary
turnip head, or Swede head, whatever it was.
Swede head, yeah. I might go as one of them.
Yeah, bloody hell.
I put my
that was funny. The old the proper head or the good looking head or whatever it was.
Yeah,
with the monocle and the shaped eyebrows and stuff, and the eyelashes. Bit scary in a way, also. But
yeah, there is something a bit scary about that the old series, isn't there?
Yeah. But yeah, so we're looking forward to a bit of Pertwee action, a bit of Wurzel, and we won't report back because this is not a Wurzel podcast, but should be good. Come down and meet us though, Sunday the 10th of April.
Sunday the 10th, there we go.
It's
actually, not to bang on about Wurzel, but I was saying the other day when I was talking about booking these tickets, it surprises me how much I love the new series of Wurzel, because, it's a bit like if they remade Blake 7 now. I think when you love something from that era, when they remake it, no matter how good it is, it never recaptures that nostalgia for you, so it's never as good. But they're very different, the new series and the old series of Wurzel, and I love both. They've somehow managed to be completely new and modern, but yet somehow capture that innocent essence of the old Wurzel series, haven't they? It's quite unique. It just surprises me that I love both almost equally. I think the classic just edges it, but I love the new series of Wurzel, and you do too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I need to watch the last couple. I haven't seen
the
those
last
yet,
one is fantastic.
Yeah, they are good though. They are good.
But I'm glad about that, because imagine if we didn't. Imagine if it was like, that blimmin' new series of Wurzel. It's nothing is like the old one, and we really hated it. But no, it's very good.
It is, yeah. It's his Handsome Head, that one's called.
Handsome Head.
Handsome Head, and he had Clever Head and a few others.
Didn't he have a sulking head? I'm going to have a sulking head on.
Yeah. So, we have not done anything else, Doctor Who. Adam's been out and about, as usual. And, yes. Before we get on to our review, we're on to Torchwood again this week. Not a proper news story as such, but it is another one of those little things that have been out and about in the socials for a few days now. So Mr. Eccleston was over at a convention in Australia, Supernova, down under. And they were quizzing him on, as always, when this thing ramps up, as we get closer to the 60th.
Yeah.
And there's the usual chat these days of multi-doctor stories to celebrate and all that stuff. He was inevitably quizzed about that. And he's a little bit lone wolf on this one. He's a little bit, I've got no interest in being a team player, because they said to him, like I said, inevitably, what's going on with the Ninth Doctor? Is he coming back for anything? And he basically said, he went on and, I'm not going to quote word for word, but essentially said he's never been a huge fan of multi-doctor stories.
Yeah, so they were cashing.
He has strong ideas about what works and what doesn't, and he always thinks that multi-doctor stories are just a cash cow and exploitation. He said creatively they never worked for him. He said when he looked at the script for the 50th anniversary, he said I felt as soon as I said I wasn't doing it, it got better off because, if I'm not in it, then it's better. So the creation of the War Doctor he thought was a whole new facet to the canon, which is good. And then he said the Ninth Doctor in particular is a one-man band. Definitely, he said, so he doesn't work with other doctors. So he said, if you want me back, you'd get me on my own. So that's another nail in the coffin. So anyone that was hoping for that little glimmer of just a chance that he might come back for the 60th and put all the stuff behind him and just have a really cool celebratory episode, that is even more shot to bits now. So not only do we have this feud that's not active, but that happened back in the day with Russell that has put him off coming back to on-screen Doctor Who. Remember, this is Chris Eccleston, so audio only. And now he's also said that he's just not a fan and would never do a multi-doctor story. So this is a two-pronged FU to Russell and anyone hoping for that, mate. So are you surprised by this? I'm not really.
Not at all, no. I was saying to you before we recorded, I really liked Chris as the Doctor, and I liked Chris, but he started to get on my wick a bit, actually. The more he bangs on about, like, he stayed away from Doctor Who for so long, and then he came back, and he just seems to spend every interview getting more and more angry about it, and laying down the law, and I don't know. I mean, I'm entitled to his opinions and stuff, but yeah, I'm just a bit sick of it. It's like, all right, Chris, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't keep... Yeah, I don't know. It's like he sort of dangles the carrot all the time, and it kind of annoys me a bit, So I'm going off him a little bit. But I still like him. I still love the Ninth Doctor, and I think he was amazing in it. But yeah, I watched a little video clip of him on stage saying all this stuff, and I just kind of rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit, to be honest with you. Especially when he went from hero to zero as well, because he said... William Hartnell is the grandfather of us all, and I was like, yes. And he went, and Jodie Whittaker is the best Doctor, and I went, oh, just
you were doing so well. You were doing well, and then you tripped over.
But the multi-Doctor thing, I don't know. I think what annoys me about Chris is that he can be a bit hypocritical. He's banging on about that being a cash cow, but he's quite happy to charge £95 for his autograph at a convention. He isn't doing conventions. He is doing conventions. He's never going to do Big Finish. They offer him some money. He is doing Big Finish. Seems he says stuff and then just completely does the opposite. So, yeah, just a little bit, tired of it, to be honest. Yeah,
he is a bit weird with that stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, to be honest with you, from my point of view, I'd be more than happy for. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see Chris's Doctor rock up and have a good old adventure with the other Doctors. It would be great to see, don't get me wrong, but if we've settled and have accepted the fact that he's not going to be there, then that's all good. We now need to move on to priority number 2, which is making sure the classic Doctors are in there somehow. That's what would work for me. That I'd love that. So, Ninth Doctor not in it? Yeah. Okay, make your peace with that. Now let's try and, not overhype it or set too high expectations, but let's just hope that the classic Doctors are going to make an appearance as outside of a funny little skit in the special features, maybe.
Yeah, I'd be more excited for McGann, in all honesty. I think that's what I mean when I say I'm getting a bit peed off with Chris. It's just a fed up of him keep getting up on stage saying, well, I might do this, if that, and, if you get this director, I might do it, but I have to be on my own, like laying down all these laws and stuff. I'm not really that bothered. I'd just get McGann in and give him a solo series, which would work at any point in time. Like, you could so easily do the Eighth Doctor Adventures and people would love it and stuff. So I'm not too bothered, Chris. If you've got all these demands, don't worry about it. we'll just get McGann or someone like that in. Or Tennant, someone who just loves the shows, massive fanboy who would come back in a heartbeat. And even Matt Smith, I think, to an extent, Don't worry about it, Chris.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what they allude to in this. Yeah, that's kind of what they allude to in this article at the Radio Times, where after they've given that quote from him at the convention, to try and sweeten it a little bit and not end on too much of a downer, they do say that Russell T Davies has been advocating for a Doctor Who shared universe of shows, similar to what he masterminded with the initial run alongside Torchwood and Sarah Jane, etc. So there is a chance that he might start to write spin-off shows for another Doctor. We might have a McGann series spin-off, we might have a Ninth Doctor Eccleston. So, we might have those solo Doctors appearing in their own little spin-off series and stuff. A bit like what Star Wars does at the moment with the Disney Plus things, where you have the main saga of films and then they do just one series about Boba Fett, and they'll do one series about Ahsoka and one series about somebody else. So he might go down that road and explore that a bit more. Who knows? But
which would totally work. I think. Could totally work.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think not to put too fine a point on it, but I think Doctor Who needs to look into that kind of stuff in order to compete with the wider world of just that genre at the minute. You look at all of these things, Marvel and Star Wars and DC are doing it now, and lots of other things where it's almost expected in the sci-fi genre to have some kind of expanded thing going on. So don't get me wrong, there's something lovely about Doctor Who being this nice little corner of British sci-fi that's represented globally and stuff. It's very cool in its own little pocket. But I think, if they want to really seriously consider a big old ratings push and expanding it and doing all that stuff, I think it needs to have a little bit more reach with some spin-offs and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Who knows? But enough waffle and news and whatnot. We're on to our review. What is it this week, bud?
Yeah, so we're continuing the Torchwood Children of Earth and we're on day 4.
Anaconda has got nothing to fear. So you watch it, and you keep watching.
We want 10% of the children of this world.
And if we refuse?
We will wipe out your entire species.
What now? Either we go to war against an enemy we can't beat, or we go to war against our own people, for their own good.
Oh dear. Things are not looking good for Torchwood, are they, at this point?
No.
No good. So day 4 then. It was first broadcast back on the 9th of July 2009. It is about an hour long, this one. These have all been about 50 minutes-ish, 55 minutes.
Yeah.
And this one was written by John Fay, directed by Eurus Lynn, and stars the usual Torchwood crew that have been in this series so far. So John Barrowman, Eve Miles, Gwen Cooper, Kai Owen, and Gareth David Lloyd. The synopsis for day 4 is Torchwood finally learns of the events of 1965. Britain is in danger of becoming a rogue state, and everything pivots around John Frobisher and the ambassador of the 456. As the ambassador of the 456 destroys its old allegiances, i.e., Clem.
Clem, yeah.
Or Captain Jack. Yeah. So day 4, dude, do we continue the really good run that we've reviewed so far for Series 3, Children of Earth, or is this the first dud? What do you reckon?
No, for me, it's another belter. I thought it was another great instalment. In fact, all 4 days have been of such high quality. I think it's really good sci-fi, and I think the writing's good. There are bits there, if you want to nitpick. I was thinking, there's no way that Louis Abiba would be in the room being a new temp in such an important meeting. That would just never happen. You could nitpick, but in terms of just entertainment and good science fiction and keeping me enthralled in the ongoing story, I thought it was a good episode. And in fact, I thought it was a very good episode. It took its time. It wasn't fast paced. It just slowly built and built and built. So there was, there wasn't much action, but there was still lots going on. And obviously, once again, we get another cracking sort of last 20 minutes. It all kicks off. I mean, the stuff with the alien, the 456 releasing the toxin was just brilliant. It just showed how ruthless they are, and it was another "how are they going to get out of this" moment. And a lot of people don't, including one of the main cast, which we'll get onto. So, for me, I thought it was another really good instalment, and I've enjoyed all 4 days, and I really hope it's got a good payoff. As I've said on the other reviews, I cannot remember day 5. I can't remember how this ends. I can't remember if it's good. I think I remember liking it, so I really don't know. And once again, this episode left me really wanting to go on to the next day and finish off the story. It had, really, really looking forward to seeing how this series concludes, because so far, I think it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it more. I enjoyed it at the time. I was slightly worried I wouldn't enjoy it as much, going back and rewatching it. But actually, if anything, I think I've enjoyed it even more so far. So really hoping day 5's good. But yeah, day 4 was a very good instalment for me. Certainly left me itching to get on to the final part. Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, same similar thoughts to you, dude. I think this, I'm just loving this series so much.
Me
it
too,
really is a real great, just a great example of solid writing for Doctor, in the world of Doctor Who and Torchwood specifically. It's such a great mix of action and suspense and heartache and some other emotions you can throw in there as well. It's, I don't know, again, this episode seemed to have it all. It seemed to have the typical things that you would expect to see in Torchwood. So Captain Jack being Captain Jack, albeit slightly more down and emotional in this one as he was in the last episode. Yeah, we've got the action stuff with the chase scene and the military, whoever they are, the military guys who are headed up by Johnson, who are chasing down Torchwood, and they arrive in, but Gwen's just cool as ice. She's like, we've been expecting you and all that. And the alien itself, and we had that little surprise as well when that guy goes into the chamber with the camera, and we find out that one of the kids from 1965 is in there.
Yeah, I know that. I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, that's connected to the alien itself.
Creepy as hell.
Yeah, and then the climax of the episode where we say a very sad farewell to Yanto, who meets his demise in this one. So apologies, listener, spoilers. Yanto dies in this one.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you've all seen the shrine by now. You must know.
The shrine, yeah. It's all there, man. It's all the ingredients are there. And the good thing is that in a way, it kind of, how do I say this nicely without upsetting many people? In a way, this is kind of a lesson on how to do a series arc story effectively.
Who are you talking to? Who are you aiming this at?
So I don't mean to throw any shade against series 13.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to throw any shade against, I couldn't even remember the number, the series 13 and that series wide arc in any way. But this is a really, really good example of, because like we've said at the end of the last 3 and now this one, when we've got to the end of the episode, it's like, I really want to watch the next one, but I'm not. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it until we review it the next time. Now, again, I'm not throwing shade, but when we reviewed each episode of Series 13, we never said that. When we got to the end of the episode, we never said once, I was really tempted to go and fish out details about the next episode or say anything like, I absolutely can't wait until next week to watch the next one. It just didn't happen. Whereas this, it's really weird. It's almost like the first 2 series of Torchwood. It was like, right, we're just going to follow the formula that we've done with Doctor Who. And we'll do the Creature of the Week episodes. We'll do a little bit of arc. We'll do a little bit of character development. And it was just really up and down for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was some episodes we thought, oh, that was a belter. That's like an 8 or a 9. And this one's a 3 or a 4. So they've really turned a corner with just finding their feet with the characters in this series, which is on one, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a shame that we only get 5 episodes. On the other hand, I think that works in its favour because you've only got 5 episodes to progress your characters. So most notably, we've got Captain Jack's progression. So the other Torchwood members are finding out now that he's actually got a bit of a shady past.
Yeah.
And he's done, so the whole thing with him, and you can see the guilt in his face, which is acted very well by John Barrowman, is that he admits to handing over the kids back in 1965. At the time, he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought, it's a small number of kids, they won't be missed. Sounds horrific, but, that was the thing. It's like they won't be missed. In exchange, the planet's saved because these aliens are going to release this deadly toxin. And they've said that if we hand over the kids, we'll get the antidote. Which is great. So, and then fast forward in time, you've got Clem, who's absolutely crapping his pants because he knows what Captain Jack's capable of, so he doesn't trust him. Yeah. And then around that, you've got the and then around that, you've got the mini sort of character development, I guess, with Yanto and his relationship with Jack, and you've got Gwen and her relationship with Reese, which has now come on a bit. And we'll come on to this in a minute, but she's a very different Gwen versus series 1 and 2 Gwen, because in series 1 and 2, she was very flirty with other people, very happy to be a bit naughty with other people. Whereas in this one, it's all about Reese. There's a bit where Johnson turns up and she's like, we've been expecting you. Everything's been recorded. Right now, my gorgeous husband, is off somewhere with a laptop. So the way that she talks about Reese and the way that she describes him is really different to how we've seen her in the past. So, so in that 5 episodes, you've only got 5 eps to progress your characters throughout the story and also tell a story. In this case, the alien invasion, the 4, 5, 6. So I'm loving it. I honestly think this is one of the best. I said it again when I finished watching it last night. I was on my own and I sat forward and I thought, and I said out loud to myself, Jesus, this is like some of the best sci-fi television I've watched in ages. It really is. It's just all the points are there. It's I'm struggling to find much in the way of negatives, if I'm being honest with you. I think if I had to put one negative to the story, it would be when the 456 who have said we want 10% of the children of the planet. Yeah. The reaction by the Prime Minister and the American political generals and all those people, I find it very hard to believe that their first instinct would not be to, because a common thing that we have with every major country in the world, I guess, it's questionable now in the day we're living in right now, but for the most part, we don't negotiate with terrorists, foreign or domestic. It's just something that the countries don't do. So I found that a little bit hard to swallow, that their instinct was to not say, okay, well, this is definitely not happening. We're absolutely not going to surrender any of the children. And if you want to scrap, then it's a scrap. And it came down, I guess in a way they had to do that because it led up to the climax of Jack having to say it. Yeah. Him and Yanto bursting in there like, if you want war, then let's have it sort of thing. But I just find it difficult to swallow that was the reaction of the Prime Minister and the other officials. But other than that, this is great stuff, dude. Really great stuff. And it's do you find that the climax throughout the series is building up nicely as well? It's not just a ebb and flow and up and down like we've had recently.
Definitely. I think as I said, that's why I'm hoping the last episode is a satisfying conclusion, because it's really surprised me how well this has stood up. I expected it to feel a bit dated and I didn't expect it to be as good as I remembered it. I thought when we would go back and rewatch this, because it's 2009 this went out.
Yeah.
So it's a few years passed by. I am surprised how good it looks. I'm surprised how well written it is. I'm surprised how good the cast in it. I mean, Barrowman, he's great as Captain Jack, just in general, but he does have good and bad episodes, and his performance does flit about from series 1 and 2. He's been consistently excellent in this series, especially this episode, because we really get to see like you said, the more somber side of Jack, the sort of character as well. We've always known Jack's a bit shady. There's a lot we don't know about him, and I think out of all the characters in Torchwood, he's the one that you can buy into the fact that he would do that with the children back in 1965, because he has to. Jack's character can be quite calculated, and he will always do what he thinks is for the greater good, if you like. He's going to do the thing that makes sense, even if it means giving away, was it 12 children?
12
so
at the time,
it sounds really harsh, but you think, well, if anyone's going to do that, Jack would do it, because he'll be thinking it's 12 children or the Earth, the rest of the population. So of course, but you can't see sort of Gwen doing it. So it makes sense for Jack to have played that part. And but the whole cast, like you said, Gwen, everybody, Reese. I'm really liking Lewis as well. I really wish she went on to join the Torchwood team. They're all working so well together and helping this to be such an entertaining series. But just comes back to what you just said. I said the same thing when I switched it off. This is great sci-fi. It's really good science fiction. So any little bits, like you said, about the meeting room, or bits that you could say, well, come on, that wouldn't happen. She wouldn't be in the room, would she? That sort of thing. You can overlook it. I think you can forgive it, because it's so engaging as a story that those little things don't really bug me. And the thing with the meeting room, mate, is I think what was interesting about that is it makes you think, because you put yourself in that position, because you're sort of gasping at the fact they're even contemplating giving them, so many thousand children. But then what is the solution? There is no answer to it. So you immediately put yourself in their position and think, well, what would I do? Well, and that's what I like about Frobisher, Capaldi's character, is I think he sort of represents us in a way that he's just being used, and he's just there. He's like the family man. He's the, he can see, we can see things from his point of view, that he just is horrified by this, but he has no answer to it. And I think that's sort of where you are as a viewer. So it's an interesting dilemma, I think, that scene. Like you said, it probably wouldn't happen in real life. You'd certainly like to think it wouldn't, but it does give you an interesting moral dilemma, which is at the crux of this story. And it's great when Jack and Ianto burst. It's like, Torchwood are here. Okay, they're going to sort it all out. Everything's fine, guys. And you think this could easily start wrapping up, but no, it takes another brilliant twist. And obviously poor old Ianto dies, which I wish I could transport my back to 2009, because I'm sure I would have been really shocked by that. I must have been. I can't imagine I watched it and said, oh, I saw that coming, because I don't think you do. You've no idea when him and Jack burst in. They feel like a great double act, actually. And I don't think I would have had any idea at the time that Ianto was going to snuff it. It's quite emotional, really. Yeah. I think it's a nice scene with Jack and Gwen at the end, when they, Jack just, there's just no words. Jack's just like, I just can't believe it. So yeah, it's an emotional ending to this. But yeah.
It is an emotional one, actually.
It is a bit emotional,
yeah. Because you can tell that Ianto's desperate to get inside Jack's head a little bit more. He's still a little bit upset that this is quite a serious big thing that happened since they've started to look into this and everything's kicked off. And he's a little bit upset that Jack didn't say this to him, because he kind of expects him, look, we're colleagues, of course.
Yeah.
We work at Torchwood, but I also expected as a partner that you would tell me this sort of thing. It's a bit of a big thing to not say. And that again adds to that sort of aloof sort of Jack's decision to keep things to himself, even to Ianto, and that really tears him apart, because Jack knows that he's kind of sort of effed up in a way in terms of how he's treated Ianto a little bit, because when Ianto's literally dying in his arms, Ianto does say that he loves him, and he's like, no, you shouldn't love me, because he knows that he's potentially handled things a little bit. And I think he always goes back to that scripted answer with that sort of thing, isn't he? Where he's lived a long time, he's seen a lot of things,
yeah,
and that's his own personal history, and he doesn't want to inflict, some of the bad stuff that he's done. He doesn't want to let people in and tell them that stuff. So you can tell that Ianto's absolutely torn apart by it, and so that adds to the emotional impact, I guess. At the end, it's not just a case of somebody from Torchwood's going to be killed. Here they are dying. That's it. Sad times. We crack on and we solve the case. It's not like that in this one. You can tell that they're really cut up about it. So Gwen's at the end, and she goes to see the bodies, and obviously she expects Jack to wake up. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then she looks at Ianto, and and he's gone, and she can't hold it in, and she breaks down, and then Jack. So it really does add to the weights of the story, the weight of the characters, because I think we kind of had this a little bit in the previous series where what's his face dies? What's his name?
Owen.
Owen, sorry. When Owen dies in the previous series,
yeah,
we kind of had that a little bit. That was a little bit emotional, but nothing like this. This was more of one of the Torchwood team is down and they're out. There's a bit of a carry on after that, but then it feels like no time at all. They're back into it. Whereas it doesn't feel like that with this. It really does feel like it's cut a hole in them.
Yeah, because I'm expecting Jack to really be fired up now. I can't remember if he is, but I'm expecting him to be pretty peed off in the next episode and guns blazing. I think he's going to go in, and I'm assuming he's going to go in and sort that thing out, whatever the 4, 5, 6 is. But I'll tell you what's pleasantly surprising is that the relationship between Jack and Ianto is nowhere near as forced and cringy as I remembered it being, if you know what I mean. It does actually feel quite a good relationship between the two of them. Although they've only really sort of got together in this series, there's been the odd flirty moment and stuff. And I mean, Ianto really didn't do much in series 1 at all. So it's mainly series 2, and then we've had most of it in this. But yeah, in my memory, I thought it was a gimmicky thing. That's how I remembered it. Oh yeah, Jack and Ianto are together, and it's all funny lines and quips. But actually, rewatching it hasn't been like that really. It's been quite a good. It's been quite a good, quite well written, and the two of them have played it well. Like that scene when Ianto's a bit annoyed with Jack for not telling him about his daughter and stuff. Yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise that it's been better than I remembered it in terms of the way it's been done. So there is more of an emotional impact, if you know what I mean. When he's cradling Ianto at the end, it is actually pretty sad. It's a sad scene. Yeah.
And it affected a lot of fans as well. We know about the shrine that was that was erected in. It was down by the bay in Cardiff, wasn't it? It was. I
assume it's where the Torchwood hub. It's the entrance bit, is it?
Yeah. So that was. Literally straight after, pretty much when the episode went out, they started putting up bits and pieces, a shrine to Ianto, and I think it stayed there till 2013. I think it was.
Is it not there anymore? Because I've only been to Cardiff once in my life, and I did go to the shrine. I've got a picture of it somewhere, but is it not there anymore?
It was moved to somewhere else, and I can't remember where it was moved to. It was down by Mermaid Quay in Cardiff initially, yeah. And I think it was 2012, 2013, something like that, and then they moved it somewhere. It's still there somewhere, but it's I can't remember exactly where it is in Wales now, but still there. You can still go and pay your respects to.
I think there was a pair of knickers hanging up when I went to see it. There was all sorts on that wall, photos, you name it.
Yeah, well, he's a popular character, wasn't he? At this point,
yeah.
And so, yes. What do you think to old 456 at the minute? Then, so still a foreboding, menacing alien that we've seen. This is not. He doesn't go down like a weevil. This one.
No, and it's still creepy. And you think what I like about it is we're sort of desperate to see it, and they've managed to keep it kind of in the shadows up till now. But then he invites the cameraman to go in and see him, and I'm thinking, right, how are they going to handle this then? Are we going to see it? And they sort of do it a bit like a classic old sort of sci-fi movie, don't they? So it's got that atmosphere about it where you do see glimpses of it, but you don't really see it properly. But then you do get a glimpse of a figure attached to it, which is really well done. I mean, it's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but you see that there's something attached to the creature, which it turns out was one of the children, which is horrific. But it's really well done. I mean, it's so creepy, and it is frightening. When that guy's going in, you're just waiting for that thing to lash out, because that's what it keeps doing, isn't it? So I think it's great. Yeah, I mean, we still haven't seen it properly. Like, we've I think we think in our minds we know what it is because we've seen little bits of it. And I think I've sort of pieced it together in my mind. I don't know about you. I sort of think I know what it is. But yeah, now it's got this kid attached to it as well, with this sort of horrific, sort of amalgamated into the body, isn't it? Sort of like the mouth is covered and just looks like, something out of Alien or something. It's very well done. Horrific, and it's like you said, it just adds even more to the sort of horror, scary element of the 456, which in reality is just a thing in a box lashing out, going mad, spewing up all over the box. But yeah, they've managed to make it a really creepy, scary monster.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more threatening aliens that we've seen in Torchwood or Doctor Who, I guess, for ages. And it's a really good, just horrible, suspenseful time whenever you're in that room with the chamber and it's in, it's just terrible. And the voice is done really well.
Yeah.
The voice
I like the little dial it has when it speaks. It's got like this little peak meter, which again, it looks so classic. It's just very simple.
Yeah, it's almost they've definitely taken a lot of inspiration from. Remember the old Independence Day film with Will Smith? And stuff. There's that scene where they go into Area 51 and they've got one in the room, and it looks almost identical. It's got the windows with the blue mist inside of it, and you can only see the alien a little bit. You can't see it properly and stuff. That scene escalates very quickly, and you do see it within like 5 minutes. But they're sort of longing this out. I think they're longing it out for I can't remember exactly, but the reveal next episode of that stuff. But it's definitely a really good alien concept. It would probably be a little bit much for Doctor Who, I would say. But for Torchwood, it fits perfectly. It's very gruesome, and just the thought of what's, it fits Torchwood. It's a perfect design and perfectly written. So Russell came up with such a great concept for a threatening alien. This is not just there's an alien legging around Cardiff, let's go and capture it. 45 minutes. Yeah, we've captured it. Now let's move on to the next thing. It's definitely has a lot more weight behind it.
Yeah, well, when I say it's well written, I think that they've managed to write the suspense as well. Because, like I said, it's not always fast paced. A lot of the scenes are quite slow, but not slow in a boring way. It's really good edge of your seat suspense. Like, when the 456 says, send him in, send the cameraman in, you're like, what? And then so they do it quite slowly. He goes in, and then they say, hang on, we're picking up 3 heartbeats in there, and you're like, what is going on? It really does keep you on the edge of your seat, which is why I say it's well written, because it's constantly throwing in stuff that you don't see coming and you want answers to.
Yeah, defo. Let's talk about some characters, Bud. Before we move on to the main cast, everything, it was great to see a certain voice of the Daleks on screen.
Yeah, Nick Briggs is in it.
Old Briggers.
Yeah.
Old Nick Briggs. Yeah, what do you reckon to his performance then? Because very different vibe to what we've seen, because we've only really ever heard him.
Yeah.
And I think he's done like little bits and pieces over the years, like certainly no broadcast or theatrical stuff. He's done sort of straight to video little bits here and there, but we just hear him. He's a voiceover guy, traditionally. So he hasn't got his goatee yet that we know him of.
That's why he looks
different.
Years, but I can work it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but what do you reckon though? Because he has quite a few lines. He's in a few scenes.
He's in it more than I remembered, because I kept waiting for him to pop up. I remembered him being in it, and I knew it was in like one of the Prime Minister office scenes. I thought he was a T-boy. I thought he was like a cameo. I kept thinking any minute now Nick Briggs is going to pop in with a tray of biscuits, say one line, and disappear. That's how I remembered him being in it. But no, he's actually got a proper sort of part, and he's quite good in it. It's nice to see him in it as himself, because he's done so much Doctor Who and obviously big finish and all that. So he's so heavily involved in the Doctor Who universe. It's nice to see him actually in it as himself for a change. Yeah, I thought it was all right. I mean, I wouldn't say he's like the best actor in the world, but he's certainly good in it. Yeah, he's certainly good enough in it.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's good.
And he's certainly in it more than I thought he was.
He's like an advisor to the Prime Minister, isn't he? Prime Minister's like, look, what do we do here? And I think he's dealing that whole scene or few scenes where you see the cabinet around the table and stuff, and they're having that moral dilemma around, do we sacrifice the children? Do we not? And if we do, how do we? That's another, very dark moment where they're talking about, okay, we've decided that we are going to sacrifice the kids, but we're only going to send, a small percentage. But how do we select which kids go? That's a bit of a dark moment, but, and he advises and stuff. So what about the other characters then? So the Prime Minister, he's obviously he's a real sort of cutthroat Prime Minister, this one.
Yeah, he's not very likeable, is he?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he hasn't come clean with the Americans. So the Americans are gobsmacked. They're like, hold on a minute. Are you telling us that you've dealt with these dudes before? And he's like, well, I wasn't Prime Minister then. It was like, don't get out of it on a technicality. You've dealt with these dudes before. And he's like, yeah. And then when they're talking about the kids, he's like, okay, fine. Yep. He's like, they didn't have to twist his arm.
No.
When they said, let's sacrifice the kids. He's like, okay then, Frobisher, over to you. You go and sort out how to do it. So he's not very likeable, is he, as a PM?
He's not likeable.
A good performance, though. Yeah,
his performance is all right. I was going to say, he is just purposely written to be sort of passing the responsibility around. He doesn't really do anything, which is probably quite true to life, isn't it? He's just a sort of a puppet and everyone else does the stuff around him. But he does heavily rely on Frobisher, doesn't he? He keeps constantly throwing Frobisher under the bus. But yeah, he had a bit more to do in this one. I felt he was a bit weak in the first few episodes because he didn't really get his character or much from his performance. But obviously this one, he gets to give a bit more, and he's not bad actually. He's not a bad performance from him. But yeah, he's not supposed to be likable, obviously, and he's not.
I think he's just he's written to be a bit of a cold,
just a bit
cold character as the PM. Yeah, so that was Nicholas Farrell. You mentioned Capaldi then as Frobisher, another good one from him. He's really struggling now, isn't he? There's a couple of scenes where prior to this, in the last few episodes, when the PM told him to do something other than the odd sort of glance back at him and stuff like that, he kind of just followed orders, really. He was, we need to do this. And even when his wife's on the phone, she's like, are you coming home? He's like, no, I've got stuff to do. And he plays it down. So he's not going to see his family. He's not, nothing at all. He's following orders. But there's a couple of times where he goes back to the alien in the chamber and says, it's absolutely ridiculous that you want that many kids. We're only going to, he tries to play it a bit tough.
Yeah.
And the alien's like, no. And he can't believe it. He's like, wow, And then there's a scene when he's in that meeting when they're discussing how many kids to do it, and he's even shocked by the PM's announcement. He announces, right, we are doing this, and we're going to serve the kids to the aliens. And Frobisher just looks around. He's in disbelief. He's like, looks around at everyone's faces around the table. Yeah. And Capaldi does that brilliantly, doesn't he? He acts with his face really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see Frobisher as the character as well, getting a bit braver with the 456. If you think about what he was like in the first couple of episodes, he's almost terrified of it. Now he's starting to sort of stand up to it a little bit more, isn't he? And he's probably because he's so tired and he's just not taking as much nonsense from the 456 as he did. And I think he's just starting to realise actually that, trying to appease everybody is getting him nowhere, so he may as well not bother. But yeah, another great performance from Capaldi. Like I said, he does say a lot of his face. It's all in the eyes and the expressions. But yeah, it's nice to see him standing up to the 456 a bit towards the end. I liked that. Seeing a bit more fire in Frobisher's belly, because he's a really likeable character, actually, isn't he? You can sort of relate a bit to what's going on in his head, and the fact he's just being completely used. And I think the penny has finally dropped in Frobisher's head, isn't it? Probably in the last episode, that he's just a scapegoat, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's just a scapegoat, absolutely. Yeah, but the thing is, he never challenges. He just gets on with it.
Well, yeah, he's a bit of a yes man. Yeah,
Bit of a yes man, yeah. And then his mate, I think, survives at the end.
Oh yeah, he got into a suit, didn't he?
Got into a hazmat suit, yeah, and survives it looks like he survives the deadly toxin that was released in the building.
So yeah, because I was confused at first. Is it only the room that the Prime Minister's in that the gas can't penetrate then? Everyone else in that building has died, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're even in that same building, though.
Oh, are they not in the same building? Oh, no, okay, right, that makes sense, yeah. Yeah, I got a bit confused at the end, completely.
Yeah. Yes. So he survives at the end, and let's talk about a really cool character you've mentioned already, Lois Abeba.
Yeah, I like her.
She's undercover for most of the episode, as she has been the last one. She's got the old James Bond lenses in, and she's reporting back everything. But then she has a moment, doesn't she? Basically, Gwen says, "Look, Jack's on his way. He's going to sort this all out. You need to do this thing for us," which we don't know what it is at the time. But then she stands up and gives her little speech, and nobody listens at first. But then she drops the bomb. She's like, "Look, Torchwood have got everything here. We've recorded all of your conversations.
Yeah.
And if you don't let Jack in to sort this out, we'll release it to the world, blah, blah, blah." And she has a little grin on her face at the end. She's got that little sense of achievement, yes, I did it. I stood up to them and backed up Torchwood, and we're going to save the day. And yeah, so I agree with you, dude. She is a great character, and it's a shame she doesn't go on to do anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, no, this is cool. It's a good moment as well, because I like that she's so timid at the start, and they try and shout her down, don't they? They're like, "Can I see you outside? What do you think you're doing?" And it spurs her up even more to actually go through with it. And it's a good scene. And again, if you wanted to be nitpicky, you could say, well, why would they take her word for it? Like, she doesn't show any evidence or proof that Torchwood have got it all recorded. They just take it as read. And I guess that's just to save time, isn't it? If they wanted to, it'd be like, well, show us what you've got. They'd sit down and talk about it, which would be boring to watch. So they take it as read that Torchwood, she's telling the truth, and Torchwood have got them by the scruff of the neck. And it's a good moment, because then Jack and Yanto burst in, and they're like, it's all kicking off. This is good stuff. They flip the tables. Those people burst in on Gwen. You think they've captured her, but Gwen's as cool as a cucumber. And it's like, again, you just sat there thinking, this is great stuff, Torchwood are really on top of this. But then, of course, just as we think they've got it all under control, the 4, 5, 6 go and do what they do and unleash the toxin, and it's all game over for a lot of them. So, yeah, it's a real good, again, the adrenaline, it keeps you so into the story. Like, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good moment. Yeah.
It was very cool. Yeah. We say another goodbye. Old Clem MacDonald's left us. Paul Copley.
Yeah, I was sad to see Clem get it. I mean, I think it needed to happen, I think, because he's such a good character and so brilliantly played by whoever the actor is. You've probably got the list there, but whoever played the character of Clem does such a great performance. He's so likeable and so fragile, and his character is so fragmented because of what's happened to him that you really feel for him. And Gwen is so maternal to him. She's so caring towards him. So it's a really sad but lovely, touching moment when he does die, and it's a horrible death, really. The screeching sound, and his ears are bleeding and stuff, and it's quite a nasty way to go.
It is,
but it makes it gives it all more the emotional punch. And I was sad to see him go, but I felt like it sort of needed to, because his character was brilliant. It sort of run its course, But he's been fantastic throughout, and I really liked the character, and I thought he was played brilliantly. Yeah,
no, I agree, dude. And it was a horrible way to go,
nasty.
And it kind of explains why over the years he acted a bit weird, and when all the kids in unison started saying all the same thing, he was involved in that as well. It's because although he wasn't abducted like the other kids, something happened to him that night back in 1965, and he somehow connected to the 456. So there's a bit where Jack and Jack and Yanto at the end are, confronting the alien and stuff, and he says the remnant will be disconnected. So it sounds like we don't know. I mean, unless they explain it in the next episode, which I don't think they do. it just leaves it to the viewer's imagination, that bit. It's like, well, somehow something happened with Clem that night, and whatever happened, they didn't want him for some reason, and he was just left on Earth. But there's a connection to them still.
Yeah, because I just assumed he'd run off, but there seems to be more to it. It seems like he wasn't selected for some reason; he was left behind. Paul Copley is the actor.
Paul Copley,
he's done a great job. But I just thought, I like this thing of having, like, it makes it such an interesting character, because he was supposed to be one of the children and now he's the adult, but he's still connected to the 456 is a really interesting concept. And I think the scene that will stand out for me is when he first saw Jack. He's like, it's him. He's come back. It was just such a good scene. Yeah,
it was a really good scene, wasn't it? Yeah, really good. And you can tell that when the screeching stopped and his ears and everything stopped bleeding, there was just that moment, wasn't there, 2 or 3 seconds where he was relieved of all of the stuff that he'd carried around all of his life. So all this thing that he can't explain, that he can smell things and he can, some weirdness about him. He's, it all seems to just, there's that moment, that look in his face where it's all gone. And he can probably hear silence for the first time.
Yeah, that's right. It's finally over.
Yeah. Sad. And then we had, just very quickly, we had Yanto's sister and her husband. So the husband's still renting out the house for all the kids, making some money that way. And it's Yanto's last conversation with her. So she's obviously really worried, and gives her the warning. He knows what's coming. He knows the government have crippled and are going to give the kids over.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, you need to protect your kids. Don't let them out of your sight for any reason. He gives her the warning. And that's the last conversation he ever has with her. So, and she's obviously really worried. She can tell something is coming. She can tell in Yanto's voice that something big's coming. You can tell in her face and her reaction. And that's it. But yeah, her husband is funny. He provides a little bit of comic relief.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which it needs to be. There's a lot of doom and gloom in this, but in a good way. It's not depressing to watch by any means, but it needs these little moments of comic relief. I think that, like Reese and her, Yanto's sister's husband provide and stuff. Yeah. I'll tell you what I like as well, and this will come back to when you say Russell's a good writer, is even little minor characters that are in it for probably 30 seconds to a minute bring us in as the viewer. So there's a scene when Yanto's calling his sister, and he says, and to you listening in on the phone, because there's somebody listening in, isn't there? A guy, and he's listening into the phone call. He says, and to you listening in on the phone, you might want to think about your kids, and so forget what you've been told, forget your priorities, think about your family. And you start to think, if that was me, if I was in that call centre, bugging this phone call, would I sit there and think about my job, or would I think, hang on, this is Torchwood, and they're saying maybe something's going on? Because it does make you think about real life. Obviously it's a ridiculous situation. We can't imagine this ever happening for real, hopefully. But if you take the sort of elements that Russell throws in the writing, like when he says, we'll make an excuse, the government say, don't they? We'll make an excuse that the children need this vaccine to stop them doing the talking. That sort of has a ring of truth about it. You can sort of imagine that in real life, because, not to bring in COVID vaccine or something, but let's take as an example, we do to an extent have to believe what the government tell us to an extent, don't we? So again, you're just weaving in these little things that ring true to you. And that's what I think Russell's good at. Just, you can always relate to little things that he's throwing in. So even minor characters like that, you can imagine yourself in their place. What would I do? Like, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And there were a few times within this episode where they were talking about the government's attitude towards invasion and stuff like that. And it's real sort of strange serendipity that we happen to be reviewing this story with what's going on in the world right now with the Ukraine and so on. There was a couple of scenes where they mentioned things like that, and it really did hit home. It was like, crap, sometimes people just blindly follow orders.
I guess sometimes we do, though, don't we? We don't question everything. Some people do, and I think with social media, we do question a lot more than we used to. But, if the government were to say, if this is a real thing, and you would be freaked out if your kids just kept doing what they're doing in this, wouldn't you? If they just kept stopping and pointing to the sky and stuff, and the government said, it's okay, we got this vaccine, it'll stop them doing it. you'd probably go along with it. Just before someone corrects me, by the way, I've just realised, obviously Russell didn't write this particular episode, so although I'm gushing over Russell, this Day 4 was written by John Fay. But
John
you know,
Fay,
my point still stands. It's well written and it's still very relatable in places.
Absolutely, yes, yep. And we've spoken about Jack and Gwen and so on. Is there any other cast members that you want to mention? Reese is obviously in there. Kai Owen, he's not in it that much, this one.
He's not actually. He's not in it a lot, is he?
Yeah, but still a nice little performance from him.
Yeah,
he's definitely still Reese, very much so. But he's just not in it that much compared to the last three. Yeah, still good though.
Yeah, still good. Yeah.
Yes. And I think just the last scene I want to mention, which is very good, which was right at the beginning, actually, where Johnson's escorting Jack's daughter and his grandson to the cells.
Yeah.
And we have that really cool little warning, like, you know, she's essentially saying to Johnson, look, watch your back because, you know, a dead man's got nothing to lose. So, you know, you better watch yourself and keep on watching. And she shows no fear at all. She's like, yeah, you can lock me up, but I'm pretty sure that my dad's going to come along at some point and kick your ass and rescue us. So just be mindful of that. So that was a cool little scene. She was very good.
I like her character. Yeah. She's got that strong, hard edge that we relate to Jack, isn't she? So you can totally believe that she's his daughter. It's a good scene, that. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, dude, have you got anything else on your notes to go through?
Just the music, mate, which I thought was excellent. I don't know who did the score for this, whether it's the same person doing this whole series or Ben Foster or whoever. But I just think the music was so, I'm going to use the word again, so classic sci-fi, so creepy, just really added to the atmosphere of the whole episode, you know, action music when we needed it. Creepy like music when they were going into the 456 box with the cameraman. The music's on top point. I always get Ben Foster and his brother mixed up, and I've got a feeling it's his other brother. It might not even be one of the Fosters, but
it was Ben Foster.
It was Ben Foster, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Good stuff from him.
He's very good, isn't he? Yeah. Very, very cool. He's really good at the emotional scores, Ben Foster, I find.
Yeah, I wish I could remember his brother's name because they both do music. And is Ben the conductor or is the brother? Oh, anyway, they're both good.
Well, they do both.
Yeah.
So Ben Foster does both. You know, he composes and he conducts and so on.
Yeah. Well, they did actually do a soundtrack I've just seen here. Don't remember that. Torchwood Childrenverse soundtrack came out in 10th of July, presumably the same year then. Right, okay.
Yeah, but his brother also does that stuff as well. I can't remember his brother's name, but Ben Foster, he's a very talented guy.
Yeah, I should know it. I've actually got a piano signed by both of them downstairs. My piano is signed. Oh, cool. Yeah, cool. One side is signed by Ben Foster, and his brother signed the other. But I can't think of his name. Sorry, Mr. Foster, the other Mr. Foster.
Let's solve this right now.
I've just tried looking at what we're in. It could be Nick Foster.
It is, yeah, Nick Foster.
Yeah, and I think it was Nick that I bought the piano off of, because Ben's the conductor, right?
Well, Ben's the composer and the conductor.
Right.
He does both. And his brother, Nick, does... I'm not sure if he's a conductor, but he's definitely a musician, composer as well.
I think it was Nick that I bought the piano off then, because they were both there when I went to collect it, so they both signed it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. Lovely.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, dude, let's get on to scores then. It's you to go first, mate. What are you saying?
Well, I'm giving this an 8, which I think is what I've given every other day, isn't it? I think all of this series so far I've given an 8.
You have, yeah.
And I don't think I'll go any lower. I think I've enjoyed it just as much as the other episodes. There wasn't any bit in it where I was like, yeah, this isn't quite as good, or it's starting to lose it now, or day 4 and the storyline's running out. I didn't feel like that at all during this. So I'm going to give it an 8. Same as it's been a solid series so far for me.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to give this a 9.
A 9?
I'm going to give it a 9. Yeah, I thought this was just fantastic.
Oh, right, wow.
Not just a fantastic Torchwood story, but just a brilliant bit of television, mate. I think it had everything in there. It had emotion, action, despair, atmosphere, suspense. dark moments, which are a bit more adult, but layered in a way that's relevant to Torchwood, not just adult for the sake of being adult, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I totally get. I just want to quickly ask you as well, do you think, because watching this, and it feels like we had the same feeling after it finished about this, this great science fiction program, television. Can you think of anything on TV at the moment that gives you that feeling? Is there any good sci-fi that you're really into at the minute that gives you this vibe? Because when I switched it off, I just felt like I kind of, without wanting to sound nostalgic, I kind of missed this sort of science fiction, and I don't know whether I'm just not watching the right programs, but I can't think of anything I'm watching at the minute that is what I would call classic science fiction. Yeah,
it's a tough one, that. I think there's a...
like we used to have X-Files and things like that, but we don't really have that now, do we? It's all sort of superheroes and stuff at the minute.
There's a few bits knocking around, like Lost in Space on Netflix. That's a sort of decent modern retelling of some classic sci-fi, and that's quite sci-fi-y, I guess. It's pretty good. But I know what you mean. There's not an abundance of decent sci-fi like this to dive into. It comes in... Yeah, it's mainly superhero stuff, isn't it? And
I mean, every genre has its day, doesn't it? It all comes full circle, and at the minute we're in very much into sort of superhero stuff, aren't we? But I was just trying to think. I mean, I can't think of any sci-fi that I've watched recently where I've been really blown away by it. There's been some good stuff, but it just gave me a real sort of cool feeling when I finished watching this of that was good sci-fi.
Definitely. Yeah, and one of our listeners will probably reply and say, actually, guys, there's this.
Yeah, I'm sure they will,
and
I'd be interested to know what people are watching.
Yeah, send us your recommendations. Give us a tweet. Any cool sci-fi that's out there, and we'll check it out. I
mean, Stranger Things, but that's a couple of years ago now. And even that went a bit off the boil.
Yeah, that is great though, dude, isn't it?
I loved Series 1. I loved Series 1. Series 2 and 3 were good, but Series 1 was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're not alone as well. So this particular episode, day 4, it was the most successful single episode of Torchwood ever.
Was it?
So it scored the highest ratings of any Torchwood episode, with the final audience number of 6.8 million. It was the 11th most watched program that week, and the AI index was 91%.
Wow, that's really good.
Huge, yeah. Which is very good. So, we're not alone in this. The only time that the AI index has been equalled by that was The Stolen Earth and Journey's End.
Wow, okay.
From Doctor Who.
Yeah, so that is very loved, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. So anyway, it's a 9 from me and an 8 from him. So what did our listeners think over on Twitter? Sam Dooley says, this is the peak of Torchwood thus far until we reach day 5. Everything about this is beautiful, from the music to the pacing to the performances. I love this season so much, and this episode and its final 10 minutes encapsulate why. My first 10 out of 10 submitted review for the pod.
10 out of 10. Awesome.
Yeah, 10 from Sam. Thank you, Sam. Will Sanger says, just a thrilling and spectacular penultimate episode. The 456 is truly an unstoppable threat, yet the story also explores very human issues with the elitist mindset of government figures compromising morality. It's heartbreaking and challenging for the characters. You're bang on with that, Will. That's a good way of describing that. Yeah. Chippy T says, brilliant, an episode to make you angry, tearful and despairing of our leaders. None of us would want to make these decisions, but totally, and in brackets, and purposely written to show how the dispossessed and socially disadvantaged would be sacrificed. TV with a social commentary, a 9.5.
Wow, cool.
Charlie B says, such a fantastic emotional episode. Wish I could say this was the saddest episode of the series, but I can't. A solid 9 out of 10. And Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says, beautifully written, wonderfully delivered, and just the right balance of emotion, drama and politics. Clem and Frobisher were again the standouts for me, and both Captain Jack and Agent Johnson's characters were convincing as they each switched from a position of confidence to vulnerability.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
A 9 out of 10 from Sarah. That is very cool, actually. That's that scene where Johnson goes to the Torchwood warehouse, all guns blazing, and then Gwen says, actually, take a watch of this, and then you might not be so keen to follow, so that was very cool.
Yeah, it brings her right crashing down to earth, doesn't it? Which is, we've all been waiting for, yeah.
Yes. And thank you very much on Twitter. Over on Facebook, we had our writer, Harry, very short and sweet in capital letters, just says, Yanto, no, with exclamation marks. So you can tell that Harry's shouting that. At his laptop, Joseph Howarth says, things are really heating up. But no, Yanto died. I mean, kind of already knew he died because of the real-life shrine, but I was still sad during the death scene. I think Children of Earth is slowly but surely becoming my favourite set of episodes of Torchwood ever. Finale, here we come, a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. And lastly, Andrew Stewart says, it is pretty good. The last 20 minutes was the better half. Somehow I completely forgot Yanto died in this episode. I thought it would have been the last one. Frobisher is really good, but the rest of the party, e.g. Prime Minister and everyone else around the table, just gets on my nerves. I'd give it a 6.5. I know the last one is hopefully going to be better.
I really hope it has a good conclusion. I really do, because it's been so good.
Yeah. Okie dokie, dude. That's going to do for Children of Earth. Thank you very much, listener, for sending in your reviews and your scores out of 10. Very much appreciated, as always. Next week, dude, what have we got?
So next week we'll be reviewing a Tennant episode, and it is The Next Doctor. I remember when this went out. The
Next Doctor.
Yeah. All the debates about, is this the new Doctor? Because Tennant had announced he was off, hadn't he? So, yeah. The Next Doctor.
Clickbait title from Russell in that one.
Russell rubbing his hands together, laughing.
If only they knew. Yeah. Rightio. So, I think we're going to do there, bud. Let's wrap it up for 344.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for coming back and listening to another episode. That was 344. Thank you so much for sending in, for those of you that sent in your your Twitter and Facebook reviews and your scores out of 10. It's an old habit there. Your scores out of 10. It was very cool to see what you guys thought of Torchwood Children of Earth Day 4. And Day 5 will be a real interesting climax. Let's hope that ends on a real decent one, because so far it's been awesome. But next week we're going away from Torchwood. We're back to modern Doctor Who, the Tennant 10th Doctor story, The Next Doctor. So get that watched, as we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always. In the meantime, make sure you follow this podcast on your fave podcast app of choice. We put a new episode out every Friday. Just search for the Big Blue Box, you'll find us there, or head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the episodes there for free as well. Plus, you can read all of the reviews and article and opinion pieces from our core writing team. So Maria, Jordan, Mark, Harry, Matt, dive into all of their stuff. It's very, very cool. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links are on the website, or search for us. And we have a free Discord server. There's a link on the website, so hop over there and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. Also, remember to check out my co-host channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. Go and check out all my Doctor Who vids and unboxings and goodness knows what else. loads of cool stuff from Adam on YouTube, and he's on the socials too under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So go and give him a like and a follow, and we'll all chat Doctor Who during the week. Until next time, my name's Gary. My name's Adam.
And remember, Aaaaaaaallons-y.